What about in relationships? You guys talk about a lot about that. Like, how do you deal with if you have a spouse that you feel like has some anger issues?
Yeah, that is really tough, especially because anger issues in families can look lots of different ways, right? Because there's the kind that is really scary and potentially like bordering on abuse, where the anger is driven at the particular person, right? It's the angry husband yelling at the angry wife or vice versa, right? And that's one way it can look. The other way is just a person who's just angry at the world doesn't necessarily take it out on the family. And that's actually the way my dad was. Like, he was an angry guy. He didn't, I can count on one hand the number of times he yelled at me. I wasn't the victim.
Right.
It was usually the waiter or the gas station attendant or some other driver, And so but that still has consequences, right? It still scared me as a kid, right? I mean, yeah, it would have scared me if he were yelling at me, but it also scared me when he's yelling at a stranger.
Right.
And, those moments can really sort of take a toll. I mean, I think, relationships are obviously tricky. I think a lot of times with relationships, it's got to be about communication. It's got to be about like a person being willing to do the work to try and change.
And what kind of help do people need that have severe anger problems? That's
the thing. I think it's, there are lots of things that people can do on their own without a professional. But ultimately, when the situation is bad enough, people need to talk to a therapist, right?
And how do they recognize when it's bad enough, do you think? Sorry, I keep just stacking questions on you.
No, that's all right. Those are great questions. I mean, I think usually it should be driven by the consequences. And to me, if a partner came to me and said, hey, your anger is making me uncomfortable, your anger is scaring me, or it's making, like, to me, that's enough for me to want to say, okay, I got to do something about it. And if I can't on my own, well, then I'm going to go
get some help.
Get some help
somehow. Yeah.
If it's not in a relationship, if it's just, I find myself getting so angry, I'm like uncomfortable with it, or I don't like living with myself, or I'm drinking too much or whatever as a way of coping with it. Well, then those are all ways that those are all signs that I need to meet with someone if I can't fix it on my own.
Yeah.